Hello, everyone. My name is Mark, and welcome to another edition of the mitoPodCast. For those of you joining us for the first time, the mitoPodcast is a new program that we hope will build awareness in the mitochondrial medicine, research, and patient advocacy community on topics related to mitochondrial disease and health, as well as to highlight cutting edge research in the field. Our audio format episodes are approximately 10 minutes in length and will feature the exciting work of an expert in the field in a way that can be understood by all in the community, regardless of educational background. Included with every episode will be an infographic summary of what was discussed. Today, I'm excited to be joined by Dr. Kenneth Evans. Dr. Evans has been the President and Chief Executive Officer of Indoc Research since its inception in 2005. He has been involved in many large-scale international collaborative programs that sought to develop improved clinical assessment tools for a variety of disorders. Examples of programs in which Dr. Evans was involved include GRIDHAMD, which was the development of an improved version of the Hamilton Depression Rating Scale, as well as the Functional Rating Scale development for pre-manifest Huntington's disease. In addition, Dr. Evans has over 15 years of experience in the pharmaceutical and biotechnology industries, during which he has led the global clinical development of several novel therapeutics. Dr. Evans, it is my pleasure to welcome you to the mitoPodcast.
Pleasure to be here.
Dr. Evans, can you tell us more about Indoc Research? What is the driving force of Indoc Research?
Well, Indoc is a not-for-profit research organization that builds research data management architecture to support all kinds of research programs in many different disease states and many different types of technologies. So the driving force here is really that the field of medicine, and particularly medical research, really needs support in the world of data management, because right now we're dealing with a lot of silos, a lot of different kinds of research programs that are entirely independent from one another without any real ability to share data. So our goal here is really to start building the kind of architecture that would allow different kinds of programs, different kinds of technologies, different disease areas to share those data to make it more likely that they can discover new and important advancements.
Thank you, Dr. Evans. The Ontario Brain Institute has engaged Indoc to build and maintain Brain Code. Could you explain what the Brain Code is about?
Sure. So BrainCode is actually a really good example of what I'm talking about. So BrainCode is the research data management system that we built, Indoc built for the Ontario Brain Institute. And so this is where all of the research programs that the Ontario Brain Institute is involved with put their data. And so it is a system that not only supports, say, a particular disease like depression or autism or whatever, it supports all of them. And it allows us to use common data elements across these different disease areas so that we can look across them and understand things that we might not otherwise have understood. So, for example, in Alzheimer's or Parkinson's or depression, we all might be interested in depression symptoms, and so to measure them in a common way allows us to make comparisons across these different disease areas in ways we couldn't before. Same thing is true of imaging and other areas that we're working in. So it's an important foundational platform and quite a significant contribution to those areas.
Thank you, Dr. Evans. Could you explain to our listeners what the next steps are for the Indoc Consortium?
Sure. Well, our goal here really is to try to support research in a large number of ways. And so the more research programs we get involved with, the more platforms we can build, the more opportunities there are for sharing and for doing complex analytics across these research programs. So that's really is our primary goal here, is to try to keep expanding the kinds of things we're working with. So it's not just expanding the disease areas, but also going more international. So we're doing a lot of work overseas. We're building additional kind of platforms, bringing in new kinds of technologies, and just trying to make it generally easier for people to do the kind of research they need to do.
And with respect to the mitoCode, which you're involved in, how do you see the mitoCode project fast-tracking mitochondrial research and medicine?
Well, mitochondrial disease is an excellent example of the kind of thing that really could use this sort of support of bringing together not only technologies or particular studies, but across all the studies, across all the different technologies. The reason for this is because you're talking about disease areas that are highly complex. There's a huge variability. They're rare diseases, so it's hard to access the data from in any one geographical region. And you've got very complex diseases involving things like genomics and so on that requires very sophisticated systems to manage the data. So once you start managing managing those kind of data in a way that's more uniform, bringing it all together, allowing people to dive in there and start doing the kind of analytics we'd like to see, it's going to encourage new kinds of discoveries that nobody even thought of before. And so that's really where we see the huge advantage in the future for this.
Thank you, Dr. Evans. So, as you know, the development of new treatments for mitochondrial dysfunction is not easy. From a research informatics perspective, how can all of us in this network of patients, industry representatives, researchers, and clinicians work more effectively to move therapeutic development faster in a careful and responsible way?
Well, of course, I mean, the simple answer is that we all need to participate. I mean, the more groups, the more patient populations, more researchers, the more industry representatives and so on that are involved in this kind of initiative, the more likely it is we're actually going to get somewhere. And there's a real need for getting cooperation going across these different kinds of areas. So, getting patient advocacy groups, getting industry to help fund things and to hopefully find new targets, the research community to work together to aggregate the data, and the clinicians to participate in these kinds of research programs, and also to be better educated about what mitochondrial disease is and what the symptoms might be and how we might go about trying to treat it. So by getting the data together, I think that what we're really looking at here is finding better targets. And better targets are the way we're going to find better ways to treat these diseases. So that's really what the goal is.
Dr. Evans, what benefits do you believe patients will gain from greater harmonization and more open data sharing within the broader research community?
When you're trying to aggregate data, it creates enormous problems when everybody's doing things in a different way. So if you say day, month, year in one study and month, day, year in another study, trying to put those two things together, it's important that you understand that those conventions were used. When you start thinking about much more complex data like imaging or genomics, those problems become a whole lot more complicated. And we have hospitals that are using very different kinds of systems. We have research programs that are using idiosyncratic systems for their own studies, and so on. By harmonizing these things, we can start putting those data together. So even though there's two studies conducted in two different places, maybe using even different methods to some degree, by harmonizing the specific ways we measure these various symptoms we're after or using the various technologies, it allows us to add those two studies together. And once we can start adding more and more and more studies together, then we start finding opportunities for really investigating these particularly rare diseases in new ways. And that's really what we need to get to, because otherwise these are all essentially one-offs, and that's not the most practical and efficient way to spend our research dollars.
Great. Thank you, Dr. Evans, for coming on the program today and for talking about the fascinating and really the cutting-edge work that you do at Indoc Research. Before we wrap up this installment of the mitoPodcast, do you have a final message for our listeners, and where can they contact you if they would like to learn more about your work?
Well, I think that the final message is really just that I think we're all working together towards the same goal. Let's try to find better ways to share our data, and that's something that I think that we all are very interested in trying to work towards. Those who want to contact me, you can either do it on our website at indocresearch.org or email me directly at kevans@indocresearch.org.
Thank you so much, Dr. Evans. Before we end for today, I would like to thank all our listeners for today's episode. If you have any comments or suggestions for future episodes, we would love to hear from you. Please head on over to our website to download our episodes and to see the upcoming events we have for this year. We have some exciting initiatives planned, so please stay tuned. Thank you all once again, and tune in to our next episode featuring another expert doing exciting work in the field of mitochondrial medicine.